In the early 1970s, car manufacturers pushed the limits with engines that not only delivered impressive horsepower, but also became legends in their own right. These engines, with their throaty growls and raw power, defined an era where speed and style reigned supreme. From the roaring V8s of Detroit to the precision-engineered beasts that graced the streets, each engine on our list played a crucial role in shaping the muscle car culture. Join us as we explore the 10 most iconic engines from the golden era of muscle cars. Number 10. Chrysler 426 Hemi. The Chrysler 426 Hemi engine is a significant part of automotive history, having played a crucial role in the development of many of the greatest muscle cars of the 1960s and the newer generation of Chrysler muscle cars. Chrysler first introduced its Hemi engine in 1951. While it was not the first company to design an engine with a hemispherical combustion chamber, Chrysler marketed the Hemi in a way that emphasized its unique features and performance benefits, creating a perception that it was superior to competitors' engines. Regardless of whether it was technically better, the Hemi quickly gained a reputation as a great engine among enthusiasts. The unique design of the Hemi engine features dome-shaped combustion chambers, which allow for the spark plug to be installed directly in the center. This central placement enables a more efficient spark, leading to a more complete burn of the air-fuel mixture. Additionally, the design includes dome pistons and valves positioned at an angle, resulting in the Hemi's characteristic wide cylinder heads. The second generation of these engines became particularly famous, powering some of the most iconic Mopar vehicles of the era, such as the Dodge Charger, Plymouth Superbird, and Dodge Coronet. Among the various Hemi engines, the 426 Hemi stands out as the most popular. Chrysler also offered a 440 V8 engine, but the 426 Hemi, with its greater power output, became the preferred choice for drag racers of the period. The 426 Hemi was first introduced in the Plymouth Belvedere specifically for NASCAR racing, quickly earning a reputation for its impressive performance. This engine, with a displacement of 6,980 cubic centimeters, soon became a favorite among hot rodders and muscle car enthusiasts, solidifying its place in automotive history. Unfortunately, the 426 Hemi's reign was relatively short-lived, as it saw its demise in the early 70s. Despite its brief production run, the 426 Hemi remains an iconic symbol of muscle car power and performance. Number 9. Small block Chevy. One of the most famous and widely produced engines to come from an American car factory is the small block Chevrolet V8. Introduced in 1955, this engine quickly became known for its durability, simplicity, and reliability. The main goal for the engineers who designed it was to keep costs low. They needed to create an engine that could be produced cheaply in large numbers, so they focused on finding straightforward and practical solutions. Although many of the ideas used in the small block Chevrolet V8 were not new, its combination of rocker design, casting process, and lubrication system resulted in groundbreaking innovation. The small block Chevrolet V8 was an immediate hit. The original 265 cubic inch V8 engine was soon replaced by the 327 cubic inch version, which became famous for powering classic American cars like the 1963 Corvette Stingray and the 1964 Impala SS. In 1967, the engine's displacement was increased to 350 cubic inches for the new Chevrolet Camaro, and this size quickly spread across the Chevrolet lineup. The 350 cubic inch V8 remained a dominant force in Chevrolet's offerings well into the new millennium, with over 100 million units produced during its 60-year production span. While Chevrolet still manufactures a small block V8 today, it's quite different from the original model. The first 1955 design was continuously updated and improved until 1997, when a complete redesign led to the development of the LS engine. Despite these changes, the small block Chevrolet V8 remains popular in the hot rodding community. Its abundance of affordable parts and its robust design make it a top choice for car enthusiasts, ensuring its continued use and popularity for years to come. Number 8. Ford 351 Cleveland. The Ford 351 Cleveland engine represents a significant chapter in Ford Motor Company's history. Ford made its mark in the 1930s with the introduction of the Ford Flathead V8 engine. This 65 horsepower engine quickly became a popular choice for a wide range of vehicles including family cars, gangsters' cars, and military vehicles. Its reliability and power set it apart and made it a staple of the era. As technology evolved and the flathead V8 became outdated, Ford shifted to new overhead valve engine designs. In 1969, Ford introduced the 351 cubic inches V8 engine to fill the gap between its smaller 289 and 302 cubic inches in engines and the larger 390 and 428 cubic inches in models. Among the 351 engines, the more common 351 Windsor, named after the Canadian plant where it was produced, was essentially a larger version of the 302 engine. It powered millions of vehicles through the 1970s and 80s. However, the 351 Cleveland, named after the city where it was manufactured, was a different beast altogether. The Cleveland engine was designed for higher performance, featuring larger valves and a free-flowing head design. This engineering focus resulted in an engine that provided strong performance without the need for larger displacement engines like the 427 cubic inches. In its early models, some cars equipped with the 351 Cleveland boasted up to 300 horsepower and an impressive 385 foot-pounds of torque. During the early 70s, the 351 Cleveland was featured in some of Ford's most renowned performance cars, such as the Boss 351, Mach 1 Mustangs, and the Cougar XR7. However, by 1974, the era of high horsepower was winding down, and so was Cleveland's prominence. Although it remained in production for a bit longer, its power significantly decreased, marking the end of its golden years. Number 7. Ford 427. The Ford 427 is a legendary engine with a big reputation, particularly from the 1960s when larger cars were becoming increasingly common. During this era, many cars were enormous, and larger engines were needed to keep them powerful and fast. The saying, "There is no replacement for displacement," captures the idea that a bigger engine, with more cubic inches, can produce more power. One of Ford's most famous big block engines from this time is the 427 cubic inch V8 engine, which gained fame when Carroll Shelby managed to fit it into the compact and lightweight AC Cobra. The 427 engine was a hallmark of the early muscle car era and was featured in some of Ford's most popular intermediate-sized cars, such as the Galaxy, Fairlane, and Torino. These models were competitive in NASCAR racing, where the maximum allowable engine size was 427 cubic inches. The 427 V8 engine was available with a dual-quad carburetor setup, producing 410 horsepower and 480 pound-feet of torque. This immense power was more than enough to propel these heavy vehicles down the drag strip with impressive speed. One of the most notable examples of the 427 engine's performance is the Cobra 427, which could accelerate from 0 to 100 miles per hour and then come to a stop in just 14.5 seconds. Another significant achievement was the Ford GT, a race car that utilized the 427 engine and ultimately helped Ford defeat Ferrari at the prestigious Le Mans race. This engine was crucial in making Ford a formidable competitor in the world of motorsports. The 427 V8 remains an iconic part of automotive history, symbolizing the era when muscle cars ruled the roads and big engines were king. Number 6. Chevrolet 396. By the mid-1960s, Chevrolet had already introduced its 409 and 427 engines, which were popular among customers looking for more power for their larger cars. But starting in 1965, Chevrolet added the 396 engines as a high-performance option for its intermediate and smaller muscle cars. This meant you could choose the SS396 versions of models like the Nova, Camaro, Chevelle, or El Camino from 1965 to 1970. These SS396 versions have become some of the most desirable collector cars in that era. The SS396 V8 engine was known for producing impressive power, often more than people realized. For the models of 1966 to 1970, Chevrolet officially rated the engine at 375 horsepower. However, journalists from automotive magazines like Hot Rod discovered that the engine actually produced around 425 horsepower, with torque reaching up to 445 pound-feet. They also found that by replacing the standard exhaust manifolds with tuned headers, the horsepower could easily increase to 457 and the torque to an impressive 464 pound-feet. This simple modification showed that the engine had the potential to outshine even Chevrolet's own 454 V8. Production of the 396 engine ended in 1970 as it faced stricter regulations and was phased out. This makes the original SS 396 models harder to find today, and they're now highly prized by collectors. Despite its relatively short production run, the SS 396 remains a celebrated part of automotive history, valued for its performance and the thrill it provided during its heyday. Number 5. Pontiac Superduty 455. The Pontiac Superduty 455, also known as the 455 High Output, was a latecomer to the golden age of muscle cars. It was almost the largest V8 engine ever put in a passenger car, though the Cadillac 500 holds that record. The 455 Superduty first appeared in the Pontiac lineup for the 1970 model year. By then, it had impressive specifications. It produced 370 horsepower and up to 500 pound-feet of torque, which meant it could propel even the heaviest vehicles with ease. This engine was featured in large family cars like the Bonneville and Catalina, but it was most thrilling in Pontiac's muscle cars. Some of the most memorable early 1970s Pontiac models equipped with this powerful engine included the Super Duty Le Mans, GTO, and Firebird, including the Trans Am. Initially, these cars were known for their massive torque and power. However, the performance began to decline within a year, and each subsequent year saw a reduction in horsepower. By the time the engine was discontinued, the horsepower in the Trans Am had dropped to just 200, a disappointing number for such a stylish and iconic vehicle. The muscle car era effectively ended in 1974. However, Pontiac found a way to circumvent new regulations introduced by the EPA, similar to the infamous Volkswagen Dieselgate scandal. These new regulations required manufacturers to install an exhaust gas recirculation valve in all new engines. The EGR testing lasted 50 seconds, cleverly modified the solenoid to keep it activated, but Pontiac engineers, allowing the more powerful but polluting engine to remain on the market. Eventually, regulators caught on and forced Pontiac to fix the issue. As a result, the 1974 Trans Am Super Duty became one of the last genuine muscle cars before the era came to a close. Number 4. Ford Windsor 5.0. For many years, one engine stood out in Ford's lineup of high-performance cars, the 5.0-liter V8. This engine wasn't just limited to sporty vehicles, it was also used in family cars, police vehicles, and half-ton trucks. Despite its varied applications, the 5.0-liter V8 was most famously associated with the Ford Mustang, where it played a crucial role in defining the car's power and performance through the 80s and 90s. The origins of the 5.0-liter V8 trace back to the late 1960s, when it was first introduced as an option for the Mustang and other Ford vehicles. When the Mustang was first introduced, it was available with a highly regarded 289 cubic inch V8 engine. Over the years, this engine was enlarged, leading to the introduction of the 302 cubic inch V8 in 1968. The 302 would go on to be produced for several decades, becoming a staple in Ford's performance lineup. Initially, the 302 engine was equipped with a 2-barrel carburetor that produced 210 horsepower. Although this output was considered moderate at the time, it was sufficient. However, by 1977, the horsepower of the 302 had decreased to just 134. Despite these lower performance figures during the late 70s, there were notable moments for the engine. In its first year, Ford used the 302 in the high-performance Shelby GT350 Mustang. This version of the V8 engine delivered 250 horsepower, which was a drop from the 306 horsepower of the previous year's 289 engine. The situation improved with the 1969 Boss 302 Mustang, a special model designed for racing homologation. This version of the 302 produced a much stronger 290 horsepower, with some testing suggesting it might have been closer to 314 horsepower. The 302 engine proved to be incredibly successful, enduring through the power-restricted years of the 1970s. It powered numerous Ford models and became the engine of choice for Mustangs, which regained their dominance on the streets in the 1990s. Number 3. Chrysler 440. When Chrysler released its 440 cubic inch V8 engine in 1966, it was one of the largest engines available in passenger cars at that time. Although it lacked the fame and status of the well-known Hemi engines, the 440 was more affordable and easier to produce, making it a budget-friendly option for those seeking significant power. The 440 is also known as the Chrysler wedge engine, named after the shape of its combustion chambers. Cars like the Charger or Challenger, equipped with the 440, produced 375 horsepower and, thanks to its large displacement, offered an impressive amount of torque. The engine was available in different versions, with the highest performing variant being the 6-pack. This configuration featured 3 two-barrel carburetors and often included an air scoop on the hood. Among the most sought-after vehicles with 440 engines were the Challenger, Barracuda, and Charger. British luxury car maker Jensen even imported these powerful V8 engines with torque-flight transmissions for their GT cars. This was quite unusual in Britain, where 2.0-liter engines were more common, especially since the 440 engine is 7.2 liters. As environmental regulations evolved, the 440's power diminished, like many other engines of the era. During this period, most 440 engines were used in trucks, though they were also found in large cars of the time, such as the nearly 20-foot Imperial LeBaron. In 1977, Chrysler introduced lean burn technology to the 440, which used early electronics to manage spark timing and fuel mixture. However, this system proved to be problematic. Production of the 440 engine ceased the following year as part of broader efforts to reduce air pollution in cities. Number 2. AMC 390. The American Motors Corporation, AMC, often lived in the shadow of Detroit's major auto companies, which had larger budgets and more resources. Despite these challenges, AMC managed to produce some impressive cars that stood out on their own. The company created several notable muscle cars, including the Rebel Machine, SC Rambler, Javelin, AMX, and the short-lived Marlin. Among these, the AMX is the most unique. It stands out because it's the only pony car with just 2 seats. It also has a shorter wheelbase compared to similar cars, but can accelerate quickly thanks to its AMC 390 cubic inch V8 engine. Although this engine was available in other models, it became especially associated with the AMX and is often referred to as the AMX 390. AMC also produced some special editions that garnered attention. One example is the 1969 Hearst SC Rambler, which featured the 390 engine delivering 315 horsepower and impressive torque. This power was managed through a 4-speed transmission with a Hearst racing shifter. Another notable model is the 1970 Rebel Machine, which also used 390 engines, but it was tuned to produce 340 horsepower and 430 pound-feet of torque. AMC was a fascinating company known for making cars that exceeded expectations despite their limitations. The 390 engines in particular was a robust and versatile power unit that could be adjusted to produce significant power. Today, these vehicles are still valued by collectors. They remain affordable and are popular at car shows, continuing to attract a dedicated fan base. And at number 1, the Pontiac 400. John DeLorean is often recognized for starting the muscle car era with the introduction of the 1964 Pontiac GTO. However, his influence on the automotive industry went beyond just this model. He played a key role in developing the Pontiac Firebird, adapting the platform used for the Chevy Camaro to create something distinctly Pontiac. One of the standout features of Pontiac cars during this time was their engines. Unlike other General Motors divisions, Pontiac didn't share engines across its models. For example, the 350 cubic inch engine used in the Camaro was not found in the Firebird. Instead, the Firebird was equipped with a Pontiac 400 cubic inch V8 engine. This engine, known for its power and performance, had been a favorite of the Pontiac GTO and Le Mans as a 389 cubic inch engine for several years. Beginning in 1967, Pontiac offered the 400 cubic inch V8 engine in various models. The company cleverly marketed this engine with a range of options, allowing customers to choose different levels of power. At the time, Pontiac stood out from other General Motors divisions by providing a well-developed selection of options and giving customers some flexibility to create a car tailored to their preferences. One of the most popular options was the Judge package for the GTO. This package included the 400 cubic inch V8 engine paired with a Ram air system, which produced 370 horsepower. In the Firebird, a similar package generated 345 horsepower. These power levels were among the highest for that era, contributing to the enduring popularity of Pontiac cars from this period. However, after 1972, the power of the 400 cubic inch engine began to decrease, and by 1980, Pontiac had stopped offering engines larger than 350 cubic inches. Well, that wraps up our journey through the 10 most iconic engines from the golden era of muscle cars. Which legendary engine is your favorite? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. See you next time.